Thanks for tuning into the channel today. Have a look at this KTM 390 adventure bike. I've now put up something like, let's have a check, 1280 kilometres on this bike now. Now, if you're on the market for an adventure bike or any sort of a motorbike but you like to tinker on bikes, my advice would be don't buy this bike. It's quite simple. I've had this bike now for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, whatever the case is. Put up that 1280 kilometres and the bike's been a bit of a disappointment, and the main reason is I haven't had one thing go wrong with it and I haven't had to touch it once. Now I ask you, what's the good of a bike if you can't touch it? So it just sits here, you come out, you get on it and ride it, go out, come back again and park it. We come over to the Interceptor. I had a little bit of a problem there with that steering in the earlier days, and apart from that, the chain adjustment, apart from that it's been going alright, so you know, things are improving. So the latest acquisition to the stable, this classic 500 Trials. What a beauty. Now I tell you now guys, this is the bike that you dream to own. This is the bike where if you like to tinker, I tell you now, you won't be disappointed. This bike will make you bring out everything. Look. Whee! Look at that. Now, really, whose fault's that? Is it mine because I've got these tools? Or is it because the bike is badly put together? Is it the people in India who manufacture it? Or is it the dealer who failed to have the pre-purchase inspection on this bike, what I paid for, put this bike or assemble this bike correctly, so I could have got on it and rode off into the blue horizon in a lot better state? Well, I would say a lot of the problems I had on this bike arose from, one, badly assembled in India, and number two, I didn't do the pre-delivery on this bike anywhere near as what it should have been. In actual fact, I don't think they did it at all, and just took the money and ran. So now you might say, why didn't I take it back? Well, I saw what I got in the first place, so why would I want to take it back? Okay guys, we'll do this 500 kilometre review on this Royal Enfield 500 Trials, and I've now put up 559 kilometres on the bike. We'll have the good and bad points, so that way I cover it pretty well. So if you think I'm at this stage a little bit negative or against the bike, well, I'm pretty sure you'd be pretty well wrong in that respect, so it's worth your trouble to hang around, listen to what I've got to say. And if you've got one of these bikes and you've got a bike with nothing wrong with it whatsoever, well, you know, in your case I'd say congratulations on your side, and you're pretty lucky. But where there's always some person that's got a really good one, there's also somebody out there looking around that's got a bad one around there, and he's asking the question, why me? So I'm talking directly at that person now, and if you are that person, what I'm saying to you, don't really worry about it whether you got one that's not working right or you got a few problems. Just stick on this channel, and as we go through with this bike, or while I've got it, I'll help you all the way through it with what I know about the bikes. And believe me, you're not going to have any problem with the bike, and we'll sort this right out, and you'll have a bike in the end which is pretty good, and you won't have nothing to worry about. And the other people who have got a good bike now, well, you'll have your good bike later. It was just what we class as a delayed reaction. You know, for the amount of problems I had with this bike, who am I blaming? Well, actually not blaming anyone. I don't really care in that respect. Sure, we know a problem was with how they put it together in India. We know there's a problem with it could have been better prepared by the dealer. As far as that goes, when I picked up this bike, but if you said, have I got any complaints about either? Well, I'm used to these bikes. I've had a lot of these bikes. I know how they come in, and who cares, you know, if it worries you that much about these bikes, just don't buy them. Simple as that. I'll put up with it, and I've got a rough idea how to rectify any of the problems. Unless it's really a major problem, then the party's over for me. But at this stage, I enjoy their working on it. I reckon, believe it or not, with the problems I've had, I still reckon I've got a good bike. Like I said, I'll put the fly screen on, I'll put the booster plug onto it. They're testing the bike at the moment. I think the bike's going really good compared to when I first picked the bike up, and it's only wet weather stopped me over the last 5 days. to get out there and keep riding it. So I think my front end's working well. I think the only other, hate to say it, but the only other drama, the brakes could be better. I might pull the pads off those and give them a scuff up and see if I can get them working a bit better. But you know, like when you think of it, it's very hard to get, you know, if you look at, to buy a sort of a classic looking bike like this, the only way you could buy one is if you go back to an old BSA style bike from the 60s and buy one of those restored, and they're still going to cost you the same money, and they're still going to be rubbish. Like either way you look at them, all they're going to be is an old bike that you won't be able to ride one of those as far as you can ride one of these. So you might as well go with the fuel injection, the ABS, all the other stuff that goes with this, put up with the crap that goes with it, stay on this channel here, hopefully pick up a few hints that'll help you, and I think you'll be far better off. That's the way I'd look at it. Now in the meantime, I've ordered a heap of stuff with this bike. Like I said, I've ordered a rear rack, engine bar, I'm waiting for the headlight cover, my number plate, engine, what is it, sump plug, guard, whatever. Heap of stuff I've got on it. I'd have to say it's still my favourite little bike to ride. So some of you mightn't notice, but if you look at this seat, it looks the same as every seat it's been on the Classic 500 for 10 years. But these last couple of seats are a lot softer. You wouldn't know unless you had plenty of these bikes, but I've noticed this straight away when I sit on it. Softer. Because some of the other ones were like sitting on exactly the same. They must put different foam in them. Like I said, they look the same, but they're not the same. You wouldn't know unless you had them. Now you may say, well, if you've had so many bikes, why didn't you pick this up before you even loaded the bike up before you took it? Well, it was quite simple. We were in a covert sort of a time zone area where it was a bit dicey down there at the pickup point when I was getting it, so the idea was to drive down, pick up the bike, load it into the van and get out of the place as quick as I could. So I actually pulled up at the dealership, loaded that bike within 10 minutes, paid them, and got the hell out of the place as fast as I could. That was the way I looked at it. So I never got out there testing anything. And after all, take into account they're the dealers, I'm the buyer. So I'm not there to go and buy a bike and actually fix everything on the bike and then say, okay mate, it's all ready for you now. I fixed it up for you. Is it okay if I take it? It doesn't work that way. When I give them the money in cash, I expect the bike to work. So I hope that sort of it clears it up. Anyway, it's no big deal with me because, like I said, I've had heaps of these bikes and I don't really care, and it gives me something to do. And you know, when you get these motorbikes here, after all, what's the good of a motorbike if you can't touch it? You might as well have it. It's just like buying a new car that you come out, get into it, go for a drive around. It's not the same as having an older car here where you can get out there and do something with it if you like to play with stuff. And like I said, you know, you get a bit of enjoyment out of playing with these bikes, and unless it gets really serious, well, you might not be laughing about playing with the bikes then, but if you keep it under control, everything's different. So, like I said, had a few bad points to start with. Now, because I actually started out on one of these bikes 8 years ago, these are the ones that give me that little bit of a hand-on approach to motorcycles when I first jumped back into them. And because of that, when I jump onto other bikes, like for example that KTM over there, the 390, or when I had the Honda CB500Xs and a few of the other Hondas, well, I missed that hands-on approach where you come out, jump on the bike, go for a ride, come back, just park the bike there and you do nothing to it. At least with this old world charm type of bike, which is new, or classed as a new bike born old, well, you get the chance to get there and do a bit of playing around with it, and that part I enjoy. So if you buy this bike and think you're not going to play around with it, well, you're going to be mistaken, because you are going to play around with this bike. So you think you're not going to play around with it and you've got one, I'd say sell it now, because that'd be the best move, because you are going to play around with this bike regardless. And if it isn't now, believe me, you will be playing with it, and the bike too. In the bad point, what I told you, I had the front forks lock up on me from scratch. And when I went out in the scrub, it gave a really hard ride, and it was just like riding one of those bucking Broncos probably at the rodeo. It was really rough, and I thought, geez, surely these trials aren't that bad. And then I actually come back and checked the bike, and I thought, geez, no movement in the fork at all. So in the end, I pulled the forks out, drained the oil out of them. They were down on oil, found out the springs were right, got out there on the scales adjustment, made a mistake on my behalf, weighed the oil wrong, put the oil back into the bike, and it turned out that I weighed the oil as in weight rather than use a measuring cup, and I thought I actually put in 200 mil, but it turned out to be 200 in weight. It turned out to be 250 mils, because afterwards I went back a couple of days later and poured the balance of the oil back into another container, and I had 500 mils of oil left, and I'd already put half of it into the thing, so it worked out 250 mils I put in each fork. And I think maximum fork oil was something like 265, even though I went out along the road and tested the bike with that 250 mil, and the ride was firm but okay compared to what it was before. I thought I was probably pushing me luck there. So after it had been mentioned on the comments that I'd made a bit of an error on the scales of justice, I decided to pull the forks out again, drain the oil, refill it again, and now I'm running 190 mils per fork, and that improved things immensely in the handling of the bike along dirt. And I've been out on dirt roads now, and believe it or not, the front end now is working pretty good. So I'm pretty happy now with me 190 mil per front fork, and I think that's what I'll stay at. So that was the first problem out of the way. Problem 2 was the spark plug and vibration on this bike. So when I first got this bike, I ripped out the Bosch plug and I replaced it with an NGK BPR 6ES, which is a standard one I always use on all these bikes. I have very good results with it. And I never actually even started the bike with the factory Bosch, because I know there'd been a problem before, and that was the main reason I did the switch. Now, I rode this bike a couple of times and found, gee, this is a bit of a rough ride of this bike. And I thought, oh, for sure I've got a bad vibrating bike to start with. So this went on for about maybe 350 kilometres, or about that. Then one day I decided, I had a little tacho here, and I pulled that tacho out of the way, which I had there, because it was only just giving an idea how to do a run-in on these bikes, hitting on 3,000 revs, and I don't really need it, so I just took that out of the way. So I went back to, I pulled the tacho off, went down, and I decided to pull that spark plug out for some reason, and believe it or not, I had another NGK BPR 6ES here, an old one, and I put that in the bike. And I kicked the bike over, and the bike was idling better with the old plug than the new one I'd put in it. And I thought to myself, it may be possible that my new plug was faulty. And I've never had a faulty NGK plug, but this may be the case where I got one. So I took the bike for a run down the road, and the bike seemed to be running a lot smoother than what it was prior to it, compared to it was jumping around a fair bit before. So I come back and thought to myself, I will actually come back, and I said to the wife, will you go to the Honda shop and get me a spark plug? That's what I thought. And then told her, will you get me one? So she went over and picked me up another spark plug, and I put a new spark plug in it, and that improved that. And I actually think I was running with a brand new spark plug, and so that was number 2 problem. And if you look at it, that was hard to say whose fault that was. Anyway, I just got a new plug put in it, and we got that out of the way. So that was, we could say, fault 2. Now we'll swing to fault 3. Okay guys, we'll get to the third problem. Now, this was also at around that 350 kilometre mark. Okay, I'd already pulled the tacho off, which was sitting here. When I went over this bike in the beginning, this is hard to believe, I put this tacho on Where is that taco? In amongst this crap. Here. I placed this taco on here right from the start, which interfered with the handlebar bolts. You're not going to believe it, but for some reason after that I decided to head over with the spanners and hit those bolts just to check them. Hard to believe. The two top bolts and the bottom ones. At least I tightened all of them 1/4 of a turn, all 4 of them, and I thought, how could this possibly be? I tightened these little ones here, the brace. Never worried about that one there, because who would have thought I could have got a bike with loose handlebars? Just, honestly, it's really hard to believe. Like, even I think, how could I get a bike with loose handlebars straight off? Just bloody unreal. So anyway, I tightened the handlebars, went out again on the bike and took it for another run. This time the bike was, even better to ride. I wouldn't be lying if I said I've spent more time playing around putting this bike, or hopefully putting it together or tightening it up more than any other Enfield I've had. You know, I feel fairly confident at the moment how things are going. I couldn't get here and say, no, things are, it's been a total waste of time. I think the biggest advantage so far I found out, one, after I'd even tightened everything up, the handlebars from scratch were all loose by 1/4 of a turn. The forks, well, naturally the springs in the wrong way and down on oil didn't help much there. The engine bolts and all that being loose on the bike, that didn't help much there either. The bike itself now, I've now fitted fly screen to it, which I've got to do a report on shortly as soon as this weather clears, that side of it. At the moment, if you haven't read the report, I've just fitted a booster plug to it. The chain was really loose at around 500 kilometres when yesterday I actually tightened the chain on it. That's nothing, that's just routine maintenance. In the Interceptor, for example, I tightened the chain at 500 kilometres and the chain's still pretty good now at 6,000 k's, but I think the Interceptor chain's a bit better quality than what they've ever put on C5s. C5s have been known to have really bad chains on them, and I don't know if the 2020 Classic 500's got the same chain as the early models. They most likely have, but as a rule, Classic 500s come with really rubbish chains. The worst chains of any motorcycle. Sometimes they used to have frozen links at 300 to 500 kilometres, and I've had them where you could pull them out and put zigzag shapes and hold them up in the air, and they just hold straight up in the air. They were that bad. So to sum up this 500 kilometre review, sure, I've had a few problems. Nothing major, nothing that I can't sort of get out there and fix myself. Still really happy with the bike. Plan to get out there and give it a few good long runs there shortly. I find now that lately I've been running the bike around 70, 80 kilometres an hour. Actually I am running it now at 80 kilometres an hour out along the road. I've been doing plenty of heat cycles through the bike. I don't know how many times I've heat cycled it, probably 20 or 25 times I suppose I've run it through heat cycles. We're taking it out on the short run, 10 or 15 kilometres, brought it back, parked it, let it just cool down for 10, 12 hours, whatever the case is, get out, give it another short run. So it's had plenty of heat cycle, had its first oil change at 250, roughly 250 kilometres, oil and filter change. It's on 500 and, what did we say, 560 wasn't it? 560. I'm going to run that oil now in it till it gets to 750 kilometres. I'll drop that oil at 750 k's, then I'll run it to 1500 kilometres and do another oil and filter change then, and then run it to 3000 kilometres after that. So that's the plan there, because with these bikes, regardless of what people say, and I don't care what they say, it's what I'm going to do, plenty of oil and filter changes doesn't hurt with one of these bikes, because this bike here, or this motor here, is nowhere near as good as what's in build quality as what's sitting in that KTM, or even what's in that Interceptor. It's nowhere near as clean motor as those bikes. So a smart idea for $30, oil and filter change, good insurance. So I hope you got a little bit out of this little 500 kilometre review on this bike. Probably in the future I won't even be bother asking anyone to subscribe or that's their channel. I'll still leave me link at the front of the thing, like on that intro I got. If they want to subscribe they can, if not, doesn't matter much. The you know, I figure it's not worth me trouble to get there and plead each clip to ask anyone if they want to subscribe. I've given up on that idea, so if you want to come here and pick up something that may be of interest to you, you can. If not, well, you know, there's plenty of other channels out there where probably the music's a lot better, so, you know, we'll see what happens in that line. But the main thing is, if you come back, you want to have a look, by all means you're welcome to have a look, and you may learn something or you may not, or maybe just rubbish, I don't know. We'll catch up with you later, and I think the next clip I'll do will be, yeah, well, I don't know what it'll be, but it'll be something, but I'll catch you later.